All right, good evening, everyone. This is coming a lot later than usual, but we're going to do another Road to the Apocalypse here. So I'm on deadlinger.com. Swing on down to the roadmap. Let's take a look at what's the next thing to talk about. So we're going to go into Survivor gameplay. We are actually really well into the Survivor gameplay path. We've talked about modifying terrain. We talked about fishing. Let's talk a little bit about general physics. Now, I mean that's going to mean all kinds of stuff to folks. There's ragdoll effects. You know, people will talk about physics. There's just the dropping things, falling. You could even say to an extent when you talk about physics, there's your collision detection. My gosh, it can go really deep. Let's talk about their definition, what they're doing so far with general physics, and then we'll talk a little bit what I think. So far it says the physics in the Dead Linger are a crucial part of the gameplay. Moving through the world and interacting with objects as you would are one of the key features we've brought to the apocalypse. Throwing objects, stacking heavy furniture, pushing a couch in front of a door, and opening doors and drawers are a crucial part of the scavenging and barricading that is required to survive in the world. Ragdoll is also planned for zombies and survivors alike. And it says, look at the dismemberment, gore, and ragdoll further down the page. All right, so let's talk about that and what they currently have. Now, they say throwing objects. So that's true. There's a lot of things that you can pick up and just kind of toss. Now, I have picked up a lot of things and tossed them, thrown them at zombies, and it doesn't do anything. So where their physics at? Well, I can tell you it's at 40%, and I feel it. 40% there. Maybe when I throw that brick at the zombie, it only does 40% damage. But again, that framework is there. But what use are we talking about? Really, when I hear throwing objects, so far, the only use I can see is to throw obstacles in the path of a zombie or at the zombie to try and damage the zombie, which means I'm going to need to see some more objects designed to be thrown. I mean, sure, I can throw a frying pan. I haven't really tried everything. I mean, because honestly, the way that you throw stuff, you gotta hold like your middle mouse button, pick it up in the air so it's not collected into your backpack, so it's kind of floating out in front of you, and then you hit the left mouse button like you're going to attack, and then it throws the object. But I really don't know if those things are damaging the zombies yet, because it says they got to work on that, kind of like the collision, ragdoll. So let's say you throw stuff at this zombie and knock it down. Okay, well let's talk about that some. Are we talking about you knocked it down, or are you damaging it? Because I think what would be really, really cool is if you could throw things at the zombies to knock them down, and then they have to take a moment to get back up. I think that'd be cool. Now, when I'm fighting zombies, they have a little bit of a knockback effect, but I would think what would be cool too is maybe there was a chance to knock them down. Okay, now that would be a good part of the physics. Either push them back, have a chance to knock them down, and kind of same with the survivor. That I would not mind that. I mean, I would hate that happening to me. Thank you, physics engine, for knocking me down after that zombie attack. But that would be a cool thing to see. Now in here, aside from just that general physics, they also put in here like opening doors and drawers. I think I read, I'm going to save this for Friday, but when they were talking about some of the patch notes, some folks were asking, what about opening drawers and stuff? And they said that's coming. Okay, that's on the roadmap. Because right now, scavenging is like I see in a lot of games, where you just walk in and there's stuff randomly stuck in the world. But yeah, I think what would add a really good dimension to this game is the ability to open drawers, open fridges. There's a lot of spaces in here that would make sense to interact with, but you currently cannot interact with them, and I think they're losing out on quite a bit of that immersion. When you watch I do bring up The Walking Dead quite a bit because I mean that's just happens to be the show to really talk about a zombie survival. And those folks, they're going through drawers, cabinets, you know, all kinds of things to find stuff. Like right now in the game, I think the best examples of finding loot are those grocery stores because they have, those open faced shelves and stuff just happens to be sitting on the shelves. And I enjoy going in there just because it actually feels realistic. Now, what would be best is at some point then the things that are behind the glass doors, like, where milk and stuff would be, that you could open some of them doors, and I don't think you can. I went someplace. I actually had to go back behind in like the storage area before I could actually grab some stuff. But so far, to me, that's the best looting area they have just for that sense of immersion. So when they can start adding in drawers, a simple little thing like that actually really helps draw you into the game. I think that's cool and brilliant when that will come. And it says it's there. It also says the general physics is an important part of like barricading. Well, I'm not sure how physics plays a part necessarily in barricading, except now we can start talking about traps. And I do think there's been some talk about traps. If once you get your physics in place, yeah, part of barricading is definitely traps, drop traps. You look at medieval warfare, and sometimes they just had places on walls set up where they just tipped over big old things of rocks or just dropped rocks, big rocks, and crushed people. So you could really take your barricading up a level by making spots where you just drop stuff and squish things. Like that would be so cool. Once barricading is set, I could see eventually people working together and you could really make a medieval castle. Now, when you enhance the crafting and then the world deformation where you can start mining nodes and different things like that, I don't know if it's going to be mining nodes, but whatever they do to just, allow you to really dig up the world and make really cool fortifications, you can do some really awesome stuff. In my mind, I'm thinking, man, that would be so freaking cool. I could see, because if you ever watch the show Doomsday Survivors on National Geographic, they did a family that was building their own castle out in the woods, and then eventually that was its own TV show, was watching these people put a castle together to survive whatever apocalypse they're preparing for. That'd be cool to do that in the game and then back that up with physics, drawbridges, the dropping traps and things like that. I think would be very cool to see. So when they say general physics, they're talking very broad categories. Even pushing couches and moving furniture and different things. They do have some of that in the game already, but the thing is there's no real sense of weight, and that's going to be important too. Couches move just as easy as refrigerators, and I had to be honest, I haven't really just stuck myself in the middle of a house on purpose and barricaded the door with a fridge and a couch to see how well that keeps out zombies. I haven't done that yet because usually my patience wears out and I move on. So I don't know how easily zombies can push that kind of stuff around, if they can push it as easily as us. So that is something that I'm missing there in their physics, is a sense of weight. Stuff just pushes and it's moved. Also, they don't have a very good system for moving some of this stuff. It's hard to get exactly where you want. And the way that the physics is right now, it's real hard to pick it up and move stuff, because as soon as it touches another object, it wants to spin and float and do all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's like really hard to stack things. So they've got the beginnings of their physics in place. Again, like I like to call it, the framework. I mean, it's only 40%. But I see what they can do. I see where they tell me on the roadmap they want to go with it. And then I have my interpretation of physics. So it's still really fun to just speculate where they're going with it, because I know it's going to be a long time before we really see this one hammered down more. In fact, when we talk about it this coming Friday, they're putting in the bicycle. Well, even that's got to have some physics, because now there's momentum. Can I run the bicycle through zombies? Can I push them down, knock them over? Can I ride the bicycle and the momentum carry me through with a weapon, so I can like ride through like a knight and knock these guys over? So many things that I think would be cool to have in. Not sure when they were coming, if ever, but to me would make sense when they talk about physics. So anyway, those are some of my thoughts on physics. I really like everybody contributing their own thoughts. Like talking about fishing. The thought was brought up, if you're going to have rivers and lakes, that brings out boats. Shoot, even that's physics. How detailed do you want to go with boats? Do they drift? Or do they have waves to go against the water? How detailed will your boats be? It's just amazing to think about where they can go with physics. And so this is such a broad category. I want to see this one get fleshed out as we move closer down that path from 40% to 90%. It'd be really nice to see how this gets defined out even more. All right, well, that's enough rambling for me. Thank you so much for tuning in, sharing your thoughts with me. And let's see. This is Wednesday. Oh, my goodness. Wednesday, the 12th of February. Tomorrow's Thursday. Man, and we'll be talking about locking things and picking locks tomorrow. So drop by, share your thoughts, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.